I want to have a baby, and you're going to pay for my IVF.
I'm gonna have a baby, yeah.
Hey there, Mr. Redder here, and the soon-to-be baby mama, me. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Am I the jerk for refusing to pitch in money towards my sister-in-law's IVF treatments? My brother, Reed, and sister-in-law, Nora, have always wanted to have kids. However, they're unable to conceive naturally. Nora had multiple ovarian cysts and eventually needed to have both of her ovaries removed as a teenager. Reed and Nora are in their early 30s and are very urgent about needing to try sooner than never because they say that they're approaching an age where IVF success rates start to decline. Because of Nora's past medical issues, I'm told that she will need extra care and her round of treatments will be especially expensive, a little over $27,000. Reed and Nora already have $9,000 set aside in savings for IVF. They've raised $1,000 from friends. The rest of the family is pitching in smaller amounts as well. My mother is giving $2,000. Nora's sister, Lauren, is giving $1,000 and her parents are giving $4,000, which leaves about $10,000 left. Their insurance will not help to cover it because they don't consider it a medically necessary procedure. Reed and Nora also have had difficulty qualifying for an IVF loan as they have some poor credit. Reed and Nora are asking me to help because, according to the loan advisor, I'm allowed to take out the loan on Reed and Nora's behalf. $10,000 is a huge ask for me, and the fact that Reed and Nora have poor credit shows they already don't have a good track record of paying back loans. When I questioned why they didn't ask Lauren, they claimed they couldn't because she isn't single and childless like I am. They see it as me not having any dependents. My mother and parents-in-law don't have a lot of savings, and their earlier mentioned donations were already a huge gift for them. It takes a long time to correct a bad credit score, and it makes things much more difficult. And harsh as it is to say, I don't want to take out thousands of dollars in a loan for a procedure that has a good chance of not even working. So I told Reed and Nora no, and that their future kids are not my responsibility. I also wanted to put my foot down now, because next it's going to be private school tuition or a college fund, and that shouldn't be my responsibility just because I'm currently single and childless. Nora was obviously disappointed, but told me she respected my choice. Reed was angry. He told me that he would remember this for when I'm ever in a time of need, so that I will know how it feels to have family turn their back on me. The rest of the family members have essentially told me, "We're not mad at you, just disappointed." Because Nora worried for years that she would never be able to have kids or be a mother, they say Reed and Nora would be wonderful parents, and it isn't right that they can't conceive naturally, which I do agree with. However, I still stand by Nora and Reed's future kids not being my responsibility. I don't think that it's fair that I should delay or give up the possibility of starting my own family in order to finance Reed and Nora's. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. And as a mom, I wonder if they can afford having a kid if they can't even take a $10,000 loan. Oh no, not the jerk. That is not your responsibility. I'm sorry that they're struggling, but common sense would beg the question, if they can't afford IVF, how could they afford the kid? The treatment may not even be successful. In addition, being single and childless and child-free doesn't mean you don't have your own obligations and causes to which you'd want your money to go. Best of luck to you. Not the jerk. Never loan money or co-sign a note for people who can't get a loan on their own. There's a reason banks reject them. It's astounding to me that people are so brazen. You should put your financial stability at risk just because they'd want you to? That's nuts. Finally, maybe Reed and Nora should wrap their heads together around the idea that they cannot afford IVF and should consider something radical, like adoption. Adoption is actually more expensive than IVF. From the conversations with people around my age who adopted or considered it, it's typically $50,000 to $80,000 from what I've been told. You can do foster to adopt, but that is not a setup which everyone can handle. And if they only want a fresh newborn baby, they probably won't want to do that, since it's usually toddlers and older. We adopted, and it was less than your numbers. Adoption has a lot of possibilities. My cousin has done foster to adopt for 2 infants and had expenses of less than $2,000 in total. Here's the reality. Some people want to be parents. They can adopt. Some people want to be pregnant. There's nothing wrong with that, and adoption doesn't satisfy it. I wish people would distinguish these more often. If a person can't get pregnant, that doesn't mean they will never be a parent. However, it may mean they will never experience pregnancy. For some people, that's devastating. Bruh, This dude really thinks it costs $80,000 to adopt a kid? Calm down, Karen. It's Reddit. You know how these people are. I made a customer cry. So I had a table a long time ago with a nice couple who were at the restaurant during our dying down hours. Everything was pretty quiet at this point. We were close to closing and I was bartending, so I had started my cleaning duties for that. Well, this couple had been extremely pleasant. I offered different items to upsell the check and they were happy I was giving suggestions. I made them several drink refills. They were very polite and just enjoying their night, but they were pretty quiet. I didn't mind though. I was busy cleaning up and closing down the bar. After I give them their meals, I say, "All right, you guys, if everything looks okay, I'll leave you to it. If you need anything, I'll just be cleaning behind the bar here, so you can wave at me or call me over if you need something. But I'll still be keeping an eye on you guys and checking up a few times." I usually only offer this towards the end of the night since I'm kind of distracted with scrubbing things down, doing dishes, and other bar-related things. But this couple was content with just quietly eating their meals. They didn't need any more drinks or anything, so I just cleaned. When I noticed they had finished their meals, I went over and offered a dessert for them to try, upselling of course, and they happily said sure, so I went and grabbed it for them. I also grabbed 2 new spoons since I had cleared their table already. Well, I had my nails done at this time, and I'm not quite sure how it happened, but when I sat down the plate with the dessert, I went to hand the woman her spoon. Somehow, the spoon slipped from my fingers as I was handing it to her, and it flung and pelted her kind of hard in her chest. I immediately went from professional service voice to panicked, unexpected voice and rushed together. "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I swear I wasn't trying to throw that at you." This sweet woman just started laughing and laughing and laughing until she was crying uncontrollably at her table. And when she finally caught her breath, she said, "That was the funniest thing to ever have happened to me in a restaurant." She started laughing and crying again, so I started to chuckle once I knew she wasn't upset. And her partner was just smiling while he ate his cake and said, "If you knew the day she had today, you'd know how much it means that you got her to laugh this hard." I just chuckled again and said, "Well, I'm glad I could make you laugh. Did you hear that panic in my voice? I was so worried I would have accidentally upset you," which caused her to laugh and cry even harder and say between laughs, "That's what's making me laugh so hard. You sounded so panicked compared to your service voice." After I laughed and apologized again, I decided to just leave them at that point to enjoy the rest of their meal, and as I was cleaning up some more behind the bar, the woman was still laughing and eating her dessert. She laughed all the way until her and her partner walked out of the door. The guy left me $50 with a note thanking me for making his wife's day better and to not throw spoons at any more customers. Am I the jerk for telling my brother it was a dumb decision to invite his new girlfriend to our nephew's birthday? I'm 20, male. My brother Ron is 27. He met his late girlfriend Linda when they were 16, and they started dating shortly after. To say the family adored her would be an understatement. Linda was beautiful, smart, and had an amazing sense of humor. She's been part of the family for so long that most of us don't remember a time without her. Most of our best memories have her in them. Linda was very close to my nephew, Drew, who's 6. Drew is disabled and he's autistic, so he has a hard time connecting to other people. I don't know how to describe the relationship between Drew and Linda. They just sort of clicked. From the moment he was born, she was his best friend and would often watch over him. Sadly, Linda passed at the end of January after she was hit by a drunk driver. The entire family was devastated and we're still mourning her. Drew took it especially hard since he doesn't really grasp what death means yet. He constantly asks, "Where is Linda? And when will she be coming back?" Sometimes going as far as having full-blown meltdowns because he misses her so much. He's currently attending therapy to learn how to process his grief, but it's a slow process. Drew's birthday is in 2 weeks, and my sister and brother-in-law sent out invitations to everyone in the family asking who can come. Birthdays are a big deal in our family and are usually an over-the-top event with catering, so it's necessary to confirm the number of guests. Apparently, Ron wrote that he'll come with Gia, a new girlfriend he's hoping to introduce to the family. Most of the family's upset at him for moving on so quickly. I personally think it's none of my business, and I'm not going to tell him what to do or how to live his life. However, bringing a new partner over to his nephew's birthday when he knows how said nephew was so attached to his former girlfriend and is still mourning her is idiotic at best and cruel at worst. Brother-in-law told Ron that if he's planning on bringing that girl over for Drew's birthday, he shouldn't bother coming at all. Ron called me to complain, and I told him the same thing. He shouldn't bring her over. Ron called me a jerk and a bad brother. He said he's finally happy again after Linda's passing, and why is it so hard for us to accept that he moved on and support his relationship? I told him I'm happy to hear he's doing well, and I'm sure the family would someday love to meet the girl that makes him so happy, but I'm standing by my opinion that inviting her now was a dumb decision on his part, and he chose the worst possible time and place to introduce someone new to the family. Edit. Ron and Linda were still together when she passed away. Not the jerk. I don't think your brother should be punished for finding happiness with someone new and shouldn't be held to your family's timetable for grief. But Drew's birthday is the wrong time to introduce her to the family, given how young Drew is and how attached he was to Linda. Am I the jerk for not giving my sister-in-law and her family a luxury vacation? I travel a lot for work, so I have so many hotel and airline points it's crazy. This summer, I'm taking my family to Disney World. We're going to stay at one of the resorts on the property. My sister-in-law and her family had a hard time during lockdown, so I decided to do something nice and invite them along, my treat. I said I would pay for their flights, hotel, and park tickets. Everyone was excited until she started talking to my wife. Now she's upset that we're staying at one of the resorts and they have to stay at Disney Springs. Apparently, I'm being cheap by using points for their hotel instead of just paying for them to stay at the same resort as us. My wife told her sister and brother-in-law to just shut up and accept the gift, but they didn't. They told my in-laws that I was making their kids jealous by not letting them enjoy the same stuff as us. To be clear, the hotel I booked for them is very nice. It's just not the Grand Floridian. So I finally talked to them and gave them the choice of accepting my gift or not coming, since I could still cancel their reservations. They started yelling at me for being a jerk and taking something away from their kids. I had talked to them like adults, but when they started screaming, their kids heard them and found out that they might not be going. Now their kids are upset at their parents for possibly messing up their vacation, and I'm the bigger jerk for making them look bad in front of their kids. Am I the jerk? Let me get this straight. You're gifting them airline tickets, park tickets, and a nice hotel, and they demand more? Cancel their tickets immediately. For their benefit too, so they drop this entitled idiocy forever. So the kids can learn you get nothing if you're being a jerk, so they don't try to walk all over you in the future. Not the jerk. That would be them. Poor kids. Heck, I'll take this amazing gift with endless gratitude. Disney Springs got 4.85 out of 5 stars. I'll be so happy and grateful if anyone did this for me. Your sister-in-law could have chosen this route. Your uncle is just amazing and is offering us this unforgettable trip. We'll be staying at a different location, but doing all of the same parks and activities together. This will give us the chance to have some time with just us as a family too. Aren't we lucky to have such generous people in our family? We are really so blessed. But alas, wah, I want more. Am I the jerk for flipping out on my husband via text after he let his phone die during a family emergency? So I, 34 female, and my husband, 35 male, had a plan this weekend that he would be the next state over for a college reunion while I stayed home with our 1-year-old baby. All is fine and well until yesterday, right before he was leaving for the party that was at a bar, and I got an unexpected call from my parents who also live out of state. I'm a nurse, so they were asking what they should do with my grandma, who called them stating that she couldn't feel her foot and that she was in excruciating pain. I told them to take her to the ER immediately, and they said she couldn't walk, so I told them to call an ambulance. I called my husband right after, and the last update that I gave him before his party was that they were transferring her to another hospital for the emergency surgery for a life-threatening condition. I was waiting anxiously at home when the surgery was taking way longer than expected, around 3 hours. My husband hadn't checked in at all. I got a text from a number that I didn't know that was a drunk selfie of some guy and my husband with zero context. I texted my husband and said that I was worried sick about my grandma and didn't appreciate getting texted drunk selfies from random people. Heard nothing. After an hour, I texted the random number and asked if my husband's phone had died, and he said yes with a laughing emoji. Here's where I may be the jerk. I texted back, "Cool, my grandma is still in emergency surgery, laughing face." I never got a reply to this. About 4 hours later, when my grandma survived and was transferred to the ICU, I texted my husband how much he had let me down. This turned into a fight where he believes that he did nothing wrong because I knew he was looking forward to this party for 2 months and he couldn't do anything anyway. I blew up and told him how irresponsible it was for him to get drunk and let his phone die while I was alone with our baby during a family emergency. He apologized for not checking in more, to which I corrected that he didn't check in at all, not even the next morning, and he says that he did his due diligence in making himself reachable, and I said that a random number texting me a drunk selfie does not count as him telling me that his phone was dead, and that's how I should reach him. He said the name of the bar in passing a few times, but I couldn't remember the name, and I did not know the name of his hotel. He says I'm just overreacting, and it's not a big deal because it's not like he could do anything from another state, and that he did nothing wrong. Seeing his friends was important to him, and a lot of them he hasn't seen in 15 years, and that he shouldn't have to disrupt his plans to cater to me. I didn't ask him to take the next flight home, just to be available or communicate that he wasn't. I told him that I was afraid, and he could have at least checked to see if I was okay, and that it also isn't okay to let your phone die when someone else has your kid, even without an emergency. So, am I the jerk for flipping out on him? ETA. The emergency happened right before the party, so he was sober at the time and aware of the situation. I called him immediately after I had my parents call 911. You're the jerk. Let your husband enjoy himself and give him a break from the endless nagging. Don't be surprised when he cheats on you with another woman, one who isn't going to nag him constantly about things that he has absolutely no control over. You guys are heartless, individualistic jerks. They're a family. He's a partner and a father first. The least he could have done is check in as soon as he knew what was happening and apologize for missing communication earlier. This is the minimum expectation for an adult partner with a kid at home. Not the jerk, wishing your grandma a speedy recovery. I can only imagine how alone and scared you must have felt, and then the disrespectful drunk selfie on top of that. Your husband should be feeling mortified and needs to properly apologize and show support. Yes, exactly. So many people apparently think it's acceptable to just abandon your spouse in the name of having fun. My husband and I have lives outside of our marriage, but we always make sure we're reachable or inform the other person when we aren't able to be. Moral support during an event like this should not be so much of a debate. It's the bare minimum you do for a partner you're supposed to love and have promised to support in good times and in bad times. This is one of those bad times for your spouse, and you should make yourself available to them for that, even if it is long distance. Am I the jerk for declining to be my cousin's bridesmaid because our wedding is on the same week as my college graduation? My cousin, let's call her Polly, she's 24, recently got engaged, and she announced that the wedding would be in Puerto Rico next year. Polly is the first person in my generation to be getting married, so it's a very exciting thing for our extended family. Growing up, we were not super close since our parents didn't have a good relationship. However, as we were the only girls in our generation, she asked me to be a bridesmaid for her, which I am very flattered by. The problem, however, is that the wedding is on the same week as my college graduation. At my school, graduation consists of a week-long events, traditions, and ceremonies, which I know may sound trivial, but I didn't have a high school graduation due to lockdown, and my entire first year was online, so I've been looking forward to the graduation festivities for the past few years. I told Polly that I couldn't be her bridesmaid since I don't want to miss my own graduation, and also that I probably won't have the bandwidth to help her with all of the bridesmaids' duties leading up to the wedding. I could still attend the actual ceremony since it's the day after my graduation, but I just wouldn't be able to arrive before then. My cousin got very upset and basically told me I'm being selfish for putting my wants over our family and threatening to not invite me to the wedding. I lost my temper and told her that she could go ahead and take my name off the list then, since I cannot be her bridesmaid. Now my entire extended family is asking me to apologize to Polly and to agree to be her bridesmaid. My aunt, Polly's mom, actually suggested me to skip graduation altogether since they will just mail me the diploma if I can't attend. My parents were not very happy with what my aunt said, and now they're having an argument with her, and also said they would not attend the wedding either. I didn't mean for it to get to this point, and now my grandparents are also getting involved. Yesterday, my grandma actually called me and offered to pay for my flight to Puerto Rico if I agree to be Polly's bridesmaid, and it really hurt because I've already made peace with the fact that she isn't coming to my graduation since she can't afford the extra plane ticket to fly from home to my college and then to Puerto Rico, and the wedding is more important, which I 100% understand. But now it just feels like she doesn't even care. Am I the jerk for doing this? I thought I was justified for not wanting to miss the graduation week, but now I'm not so sure anymore, considering all the reactions from my extended family, and especially my grandma. Not the jerk. Congratulations, OP. A 10-year graduation, you earned it. This is a legit conflict of schedules, and you're not even that close with the cousin to begin with. Family is causing drama for its own sake. Am I the jerk for mansplaining to my girlfriend? I personally don't think this is an issue of mansplaining, but I want to present her perspective of the issue fairly and objectively. I don't want to make this story seem completely one-sided like some of the other stories I read on here. I, 23 male, am someone who loves fun facts. I love telling my friends and family fun facts and seeing their faces light up with the same interest as mine when I had first heard the fact. I've been getting the feeling lately that my girlfriend, who's 23, isn't really treating me with respect. When she talks to me, she acts kind of withdrawn and dismissive, and I sometimes feel like she responds to me as though she's like a boss speaking to a subordinate. Whenever I tell her things, she may be listening or she may not be. Yesterday, I told her a fun fact about how styrofoam containers aren't actually made from styrofoam. Instead, they're made from a material called polystyrene, and she didn't even blink and just said, okay. Today, we were over at a friend's house for dinner, and she let us take some pasta home for leftovers, and I heard my girlfriend say, "Hand me that styrofoam container." I got a little annoyed since this was proof that she doesn't give a hoot about the things I said. So I said in an annoyed voice, It's made of polystyrene, not styrofoam, but I guess it doesn't matter what I say since you wouldn't listen anyway." After that, all heck broke loose, and my girlfriend is refusing to talk to me because I was rude, even though I was literally just pointing out that she's being disengaged and disrespectful to me by not caring about the things I say and making me feel kind of unimportant. You're the jerk. I wouldn't listen to you either. Styrofoam is a brand name for polystyrene. He'd still be the jerk even if it were a different brand. Hand me the Kleenex, please. It's Scotty's. Don't you ever listen? You're the jerk. The common name used is styrofoam, so her calling it that doesn't mean she's not paying attention to you. Sharing fun facts is fine, but it's unreasonable to share a fun fact about, as an example, the scientific word for turkeys, and then get mad when the person you told continues to use the word turkey instead of the scientific name. I really hope this is the first time you made this type of comment about your girlfriend not paying attention to what you say, because if it isn't, that sounds incredibly annoying. It's not mansplaining, it's info dumping. Other people may appreciate it, but it sounds like your girlfriend would like it to be less, since it appears she gets higher doses of info dumping than anyone else. While fun facts are cool, to constantly talk about them can be exhausting. Where's your respect for your girlfriend exactly? Do you ask her if she'd like to know a fun fact, or do you assume and just tell her? Styrofoam fun fact would only be a fun fact to someone interested in styrofoam and how things are made. Why did you get annoyed over your girlfriend asking for a to-go container? It makes no sense. No one is going to ask for a polystyrene container. Why would you call her out in front of people? You seem to be the one that is extremely ignorant and disrespectful. You're the jerk. You're the jerk. And that doesn't sound like a fun fact, to be honest. Perhaps you might need to learn facts that people actually find interesting, because what material some everyday item is made of is just not it. Also, a styrofoam container is called that for a reason. She's not wrong for calling the product by the name it was given. Agreed. A fun fact would be talking about why we call them styrofoam containers instead of polystyrene. Also, OP sounds like a super boring person to be around if this is their idea of fun. Am I the jerk for bringing up the fact my brother hasn't had a steady job since he graduated 3 years ago? Today, we had a little barbecue for Memorial Day at my mom's house, and my brother, who's 21, was noticeably tired and not really speaking unless spoken to, but he's kind of always been like that. It was enough to be noticeably worse today though. I asked him how he was doing, and he said he's fine and he just had a long night with his friends playing PlayStation. I told him he should have probably planned to go to sleep early so he'd have energy for the barbecue today, and he sarcastically responded that he couldn't help it. I regret my response to this, but I said, maybe you'd have more energy if you had a job. His demeanor quickly shifted, and he was pretty insulted. But it's been a recurring argument between us that he needs to get off his butt and help our mom with rent. But for some reason, he just doesn't. No matter how hard we poke and pet him, he won't budge. He's not in college, and the only money he makes is when he goes logging with his dad, which isn't really a job and only happens a few times a month. Eventually, he started crying and ran to his room. My mom was upset with me for ruining the barbecue, which I didn't expect to happen, and told me I should probably leave. I'm 23, female, and I've had a job ever since high school, and I'm in college currently. I moved out when I was 19 and never looked back. But for some reason, my mom isn't as strict with my brother as she was with me. She occasionally sends him links to places that are hiring, and that's it. Honestly, he's got a heart of gold and a lot of friends and family who adore him. I just wish he'd get a job to help my overworked mom out. Am I the jerk? You told him maybe he'd have more energy if he had a job? This right here is a cheap shot and doesn't even make sense. Not to mention a drama starter. Can't blame your mom for asking you to leave. You tout that you've had a job since high school, go to school currently and live on your own. Yet here you are starting unnecessary childish drama at a family barbecue. You're the jerk. You're taking a problem that has nothing to do with you and making it your problem. Comments like that are not going to help him. He's an adult. His job situation is his to deal with. And if he's not paying rent to your mom, that's up to your mom to sort out. I also think that you are not accounting for details you may be unaware of here, like if he may be dealing with some mental health issues or other problems in his life. You're the jerk. It's not your place to shame him. If your parents have an issue with him not paying rent or his lack of employment, they can talk to him. It's not your place. If all the poking and prodding hasn't worked before, it's not going to work now. A family barbecue for the holiday isn't the time nor place for such shaming anyway.
OP seems to think that adults should have jobs and not stay up all night playing video games. You really thought the people on Reddit were gonna agree with you?
Don't leave the clearance section until you finish tidying it. Another tale from my retail job, which I recently quit, while I procrastinate from my other work. This one is from about 15 years ago at my original store. I worked in the ladies section doing recovery, basically tidying up and sometimes printing price tickets for the shelves if any were missing or torn. And though it was generally possible to get it finished within the time allotted for my shift, busy days or events such as Mother's Day or pre-Christmas and Boxing Day sales turned it into a nightmare. As if the usual holiday shopping mess wasn't bad enough, the department manager, Stacy, had in all her infinite wisdom decided to put all of the ladies' wear clearance into this section at once. They actually did it for all the clothes departments, but most of them only had a small amount, so you could easily fit it all in the normal clearance racks. However, the ladies' department had ended up with 10 times as much clearance as usual for this time of year, because whoever decides what clothes we'll sell made bad choices, and we ended up with mountains of horrid outfits marked down to $1, even though most people wouldn't wear it if you paid them $50. Usually they would keep most of the excess stock out in the back and just have a few racks of it in the section, and as the stuff in the section sold and the racks got empty, they'd be replenished from more stock from out the back. For some reason, Stacy decided she wanted all the ladies' wear clearance to be available to customers at once, even though it didn't physically fit on the racks. Not to be deterred by stupid little things like logic and reason, she moved the regular stock from the main middle aisle of the section into other aisles, causing those to be overfull, and ordered the full staff to put the clearance all along the middle aisle. When I say the clothes were literally bulging off the shelf arms, I'm not exaggerating. You could barely even walk down the aisle without the first 4 to 5 things on each arm falling off. And of course, if a customer wanted to look at anything further back on the shelf, they'd knock most of the other stuff off in the process. So there was constantly a several-inch layer of clothes lying on the floor. This made it literally impossible to actually recover the clearance section properly. But generally, recovery staff were told to prioritize doing a little pickup every hour or so and make sure there was no stock on the floor and spend the rest of the time going through and recovering the section, making sure everything was in the right place and in the correct size order. So, I had a shift on Boxing Day, and I'd heard from the pre-shift huddle that one of the big regional managers was coming in to visit and inspect the store at closing time, and that we needed to make sure the store was perfect. Not sure how that was meant to happen on Boxing Day, and with half the number of staff we needed, but whatever. When I started my shift, 90% of the clearance clothing was on the floor. For most of the aisle, you couldn't even see the floor. I knew that there was no way I'd be able to keep the floor clean in the clearance section because my shift ended at the same time the store closed. Anything I tidied up would immediately become destroyed by customers. So I decided I would focus on getting the rest of the section presentable and then quickly try to pick up the clearance section in the last 10 to 15 minutes of the shift before the store shut down. At the start of my shift, I did a half-attempted pickup and clearance and tried to shove most of the mess to the side a bit so that it would at least not be right in the middle of the aisle, and then went to start the rest of the section only to be confronted by Stacy. Stacy:
What are you doing? Have you seen clearance? Why aren't you fixing it? It's all over the floor.
Me. Yeah, because you put too much stock in there. I picked it up, but it falls off again because the shelves are too full and customers just knock it down as soon as I fix it anyway. Stacy.
Well, are you planning to do anything about it?
Me. Right now, I can't do anything about it. There are so many customers in the aisle, I can hardly get in there anyway. And since I can't keep clearance tidy with customers in the store, I figured I'd get the rest of ladies' wear tidied and then pick up clearance at the end. Stacy.
Not good enough. You need to make sure clearance is off the floor and sorted properly. You know Bob,
Regional Manager,
is due for a visit this evening.
Me. I understand that, but like I said, it's literally impossible to recover clearance because of how much stock is in there and how many customers there are. If I can at least do the rest of the area first, then it will only be clearance that looks a bit rough, and I can at least make sure everything is off the floor at the end of the shift. Stacy.
You don't get to decide what you prioritize. You need to make sure clearance is perfect. I know no one likes clearance, but you need to stop making excuses to get out of doing it. So don't leave the clearance section until you've finished tidying it.
Me. Okay. 5 minutes before my shift ends and the store closes, the regional manager, Bob, shows up and is escorted around the store by the store manager, Mark, and Stacy. They stop in front of ladies' wear, and Stacy just breathes.
What on earth?
You see, I had finished tidying clearance, but the shelves were still overfull, none of the stock was on the floor in that aisle, and everything was in the right size, order, and hanging neatly. The clearance section was my magnum opus of recovery, if I do say so myself. However, the rest of ladies' wear department had not been touched. Since I couldn't finish tidying clearance until the store was pretty much closed, and I wasn't allowed to leave clearance until I did finish it, it meant that the rest of the department looked like a bomb had hit it, with stock all over the floor, clothes draped over the shelves instead of hung up properly, broken coat hangers everywhere, and abandoned shopping baskets and piles of stock from other departments left lying around in the aisles. Bob and Stacy looked like they were about to lose it on me, but Mark, who knew I was generally a good worker, asked why the department was in such poor condition given that I was meant to have been recovering it for 3 hours. I explained. Stacy told me I wasn't allowed to leave the clearance section until I'd finished tidying it, but there's so much overstock and so many customers pulling things apart that most of the stock won't stay on the shelves. And one of those moments of perfect cosmic timing, right as I said that, one of the shelf arms behind me gave way with a loud crash, sending an entire rack of clothes to the floor. Mark just stared at me silently for a few seconds and then said to me, "Well, you've done well under the circumstances. You can go home." I'm not sure if Stacy got into any trouble, but nothing else was said about it to me by the store manager, and I never got any warnings or disciplinary action or anything. The following shift, more rails had been brought out from the back and placed in the central aisle of the store, and some of the clearance had been moved to those rails to free up space in ladies' wear. Stacy refused to talk to me for about a fortnight though.
Welcome aboard to our newest subscribers, Katie, Yazora, and Linda. Do this. Subscribe to our channel if you're new, tick the notification bell, and you might get a shout out in an upcoming video.